Welcome back for another edition of Jacket Sports Weekly. The baseball team finishing up non-conference play. They'll be diving into President's Athletic Conference play this upcoming weekend.
And the softball team also picking up 2 wins, big wins, on the road against Penn State Fayette. Also play another doubleheader this week. We'll get more into that here later.
Joe Smeltzer will sit down with Emma Kubalak of the softball team and much more. I'm Dylan Cleland.
I'm Zach Schnegg.
And it's time for Jacket Sports Weekly.
Back here on Jacket Sports Weekly, the baseball team coming off a doubleheader sweep against Allegheny this past week. After coming off 6-4 and the Florida trip coming back here this year, and falling to an 0-5 Allegheny team coming in, giving up a lot of hits, a lot of runs, and one thing that they needed to avoid is the big inning, which they gave up a good bit of in that game.
They did, and that's one thing in baseball that you have to keep an eye on. You have to watch about the big innings and taking a look at the pitching from that first game. Tyler Sabrinovich pitched 2 1/3. Just 1 strikeout, no walks, but his ERA skyrocketed because of those big run innings. Brandon Lawless came in. He pitched 3 2/3, had an ERA of 1 and 1 strikeout, 1 walk, and then Carter Uzel also getting some time on the mound as well. So again, the pitching, there's a lot of it, and Coach Mike Humiston has a lot of availability to go to, but it's right now kind of getting it ironed out who's going to fit in what role.
It's the fact of fitting the pieces into the puzzle, getting your rotation set, getting your bullpen set, and that's what they need to find out early here in the season. We're heading into conference play coming up this week, finishing out the non-conference schedule. But when you have your starter like Tyler Sabrinovich, who actually had a pretty decent freshman season last year, gets his first loss 0-1 against Allegheny, and coming in against a winless Allegheny team. Again, 8 runs and 7 runs, or 8 hits, 7 runs, all earned in the 2 1/3. You definitely need more production out of pitchers like that. But Brandon Lawless and Carter Uzel, they both did give up a handful of hits, but also 1 earned run. But they did pretty well coming out of the bullpen, get some fresh arms in there, and they were able to finish the game. But unfortunately, not be able to pull it off against the Gators.
Yeah, and take a look at the offensive side in both of these games. Only able to manufacture 6 runs, 3 in each game. Tyler Reese, he had his first home run of the season in that first game of the doubleheader, so that was something notable. He went 2 for 3 with 2 runs. In game 2, 2 for 4 with a run scored as well. So he's coming along as well. That's something that we've seen from him in the past. Obviously, a very good ball player, but he'll develop and improve as the season goes on. Mitch Nordstrom also big 2 for 4 in both games, so combined 4 for 8 on the day. And Vinny Monaco, and we see Tyler Woodrow's name pop up again, the freshman, getting some time, 2 for 3, no runs scored, but did have an RBI in the Game 2 loss. So right now, again, we said that with the pitching, it's kind of fitting those pieces into the puzzle and figuring that out. But the offense is there for sure.
Right. Well, you look at also game 1. Tyler Reese, one thing that's interesting to me that Tyler Reese is making the jump from second base to third base in his senior season. Pretty much the road to the draft for this kid. He has the determination, he has the work ethic, and I think he has the production too to get to the MLB draft. But it's going to be a little bit interesting to see how he jumps from second to third base. But looking in this first game, Reese 2 hits and an RBI, Midstrom 2 runs and 2 RBI. Then after that, you have Vinny Monaco with 1 hit. The rest of the team just went silent the entire first game, which is not good, especially after you fall to a big deficit like that to a winless Gators team.
Yeah, and like we said, it's 2 losses there, but they're now 6-6, and they'll dive into PAC shortly. Get more in that with Ed DiOrio a little bit later on. We'll switch from the baseball field to the softball diamond, and really taking a look at this team. They had 2 doubleheaders this past week. They did lose the first. They got swept in that one. But then over the weekend, they were able to pick up 2 big wins. And after returning from South Carolina, their spring trip in Myrtle Beach, things were a little shaky, not looking great. But now that they've come home, 2-2 so far since they've returned back to PA.
Absolutely dominating Penn State Fayette in all facets in the first game, or actually in the 2 games against them. They went 11-0 against Fayette in the first game, and the second game 13-6. Second game was a big one. 13 runs on 18 hits in the third inning, 6 runs in the fifth inning, 5 runs and a couple runs here or there. But when you can get those big innings that we just talked about, baseball, how it needs to avoid them, softball, they can keep capitalizing on that. They can build off of that not very stellar Myrtle Beach trip and can get some momentum heading into conference play, because on a softball season isn't that long of a season compared to like football and other seasons that are 3 months long. softball is only going to be a month and a half of prime time softball season. So their games need to be counted now, and they need to figure out their pieces right here and right now.
A couple of things to note from that game. Head coach Brett Shimmick said that he was very impressed with the defensive play in that doubleheader. They had a couple of diving catches, and that's a difference between 1, 2, 3, 4 runs sometimes. Right. So that's something to note. And also Courtney Messenger and Emma Kubalak, they're really the only two pitchers that this team has. So unlike the baseball team who has a bullpen and some flexibility, they're relying on these two girls day in and day out to do the pitching. And Messenger, in that first win, the 11-0 Mercy Roll win in 5 innings, she pitched all 5 and just allowed, didn't allow any runs in that. And then Kubalak, she got the win and pitched a full 7 innings as well. So it's a shorter season, so you play a lot more games in a tighter, condensed amount of time. But right now for the softball team, if they can keep that pitching up the pace, the offense is certainly there.
Kind of like a 1-2 punch combo almost. When you have Courtney Messenger coming in, pretty much laying the groundwork in the first game, only a 2-hit shutout in the first game. Then you bring in Emma Kubalak, who does need to get a little more experience at a younger pitcher, 6 runs and 12 hits, but still be able to get the win due to some offensive production. But you also bring up the defensive factor of that. No errors in both games. So if you can avoid getting out of that stat column on the far right, then you're probably most likely going to win some games. So if they can carry that into the future, heading into PAC play here coming up just in a few weeks, I think the softball team will be looking pretty good, especially with some experience on the mound coming into the year.
Yeah, the experience on the mound is there, and the experience in the batter's box is there too. We had a couple of first collegiate home runs. Ashley Dubovich last week against Penn State Beaver. That was the doubleheader that they lost. And then Courtney Seifert had her first collegiate home run over the weekend in the win. She was also a double shy of the cycle. So up and down this lineup, there's a lot of girls that can not just get you a single or maybe take a walk. They can hit the ball and they can get around the bases quickly too.
One name we'll bring up in game 2 as well. One name we really haven't heard that much of is Hannah Batovsky, the shortstop, 2 hits, 2 runs, and also 3 RBI in that game. So they're getting production from all across the field. We also bring up Taylor Stutler with 2 runs in the second game and the first game as well. So you're getting offensive production from all across the field.
Now, unlike the baseball team, the softball team has a little bit of conference or non-conference play still left. They have 3 doubleheaders this week alone against non-conference opponents. It's going to kind of allow for some time to finish ironing things out. And really, I don't see a reason this team can't make the PAC playoffs right now. Right now, their record is 4-8, but a little bit of time, a few conference wins go your way. Those tight games, you make those defensive plays, then there's definitely a chance to do that. We'll break the softball team down a little bit more and also the baseball team. That'll be up first. Ed DiOrio comes in to analyze the baseball team next on Jacket Sports Weekly.
Hello and welcome to The Journey, WCTV's only faith-based program.
Over the course of this semester, we are going to walk with students through their daily lives and take a look at how faith impacts them.
Please take a half hour, sit down, and relax with us as we go on a journey with students, staff, and residents of Waynesburg.
Now it's time for our analyst segments here on Jacket Sports Weekly. We'll start with some baseball analysis, and Ed DiOrio, our analyst, is in. Ed, what have you seen from this team to this point in the year?
I've seen kind of a trend, especially compared to last year. When they came back from Florida last year, the Waynesburg University baseball team, they were hovering or at around 500, I'd say, and that's where they are right now. They're 6-6 on the year, haven't played a conference game, but that's going to change here real quick as Geneva's coming up. But right just before that, they're going to play Penn State Bear, and they're going to host the branch campus of Penn State. Last year, they did the same thing on a Sunday, and they lost, both in the doubleheader. Not really the biggest game or doubleheader to concern yourself with, considering it is a non-conference game, but it's a tune-up, especially when you go into PAC play, opening up with Geneva, and then right after that, W&J, one of the best programs in the conference. So you kind of have to get your feet under you and kind of get a running start. So I can see Waynesburg doing that against Penn State Barron because this isn't the same team from last year. Just looking at their batting average as a team, 230. That's not too good. And on-base percentage, 349, that's mediocre. So the players you got to watch out for are Josh Brittner, he's having a 333 average, Ian Taylor, 308, and Scott Sada at 302. Those are the main guys you got to focus on, and with about a week of rest, you're going to have most of your arms about as healthy as you want them going into that Penn State Barron doubleheader. So I would say that this is going to be a closer contest than it was last year, but don't focus on that too much. The one I want to focus on a little more is the Geneva matchup. Geneva was 19-14 last year, 7-11 in the PAC, finished 8th, just one spot ahead of Waynesburg, who last year was 6-12, so not too much of a difference in these teams. It seems like Waynesburg, I'd like to think, is implementing their young talent, and their young talent from last year has gotten better, as you mentioned, Zach, with Tyler Sabrinovich. John Prespolinski has been better, and the young guys like Tyler Woodrow, Corey Fisher, Joe Sabalik, they've been doing major contributions, especially in Florida, and they've carried it in to this season. I'd like to think they can continue, and hopefully so. They're going to be the guys I want to look at for the Geneva game. Geneva is 8th in the PAC in batting average right now at .233. They are last in last in strikeouts, but 3rd in team ERA. So they're putting the ball in play. That has a lot of potential for errors, which we saw bite Waynesburg against Allegheny. But when you put the ball in play, anything can happen. So I like Waynesburg's chances. Waynesburg on the strikeout scenario, I just want to touch on, they're 2nd in the PAC right now with 69. So Waynesburg, when they get in trouble on the base paths, they can get out of it with strikeouts. Geneva, not so much. I think Waynesburg could come out and maybe go 1-1 and maybe even 2-0 to start the PAC play.
All right, we'll see if that's the case. Waynesburg opens up PAC play this weekend against Geneva. When we come back, Jacob Nicholas will be in to talk about the Waynesburg softball team here on Jacket Sports Weekly.
My name is Corey Tretinik, and I'm here with this week's entertainment news.
buzzing on campus. And remember, it's all of your beeswax.
It's all of your beeswax. Remember, it's all of your beeswax.
Back here on Jacket Sports Weekly, talking with our softball analyst, Jacob Nicholas. Jacob, softball team coming off 2 big wins against Penn State Fayette this past week after coming off a not-so-stellar Myrtle Beach trip.
Yeah, they won both their games in their doubleheader this past weekend against Penn State Fayette. First game, 11-0 in 5 innings. Second game, 13-6. In that first game, junior outfielder Taylor Staley went 1 for 2 with 3 RBIs. Second game, junior center fielder Courtney Seifert, who also is the goalkeeper for the women's soccer team here at Waynesburg, she was just a double shy of the cycle. And she went 3 for 5, 2 RBIs, 3 runs. And really a big boost for the softball team after that not-so-stellar Myrtle Beach trip to start the season.
Now, you mentioned off-air how this team has a very busy week. 6 games, a doubleheader against Franciscan, Mount Aloysius, and then Pitt Greensburg on Saturday. What should people look for heading into this stretch of tough games?
Well, this is going to be a tough week for Waynesburg softball. Not only do they have 6 games, 3 doubleheaders, but these are no slouches. These teams are solid teams. Wednesday, doubleheader at Franciscan, 6-3 overall coming into the doubleheader. They have a phenomenal freshman who's playing really well this season, outfielder Jenny Massey. She's hitting .500 so far in 9 games, 15 hits, 8 RBIs, and they also have a solid pitcher. Sarah Keating, she's 3-0, 0.97 ERA, and had a complete game in each of her 3 starts so far this season. So the team really just adequate pitching, decent offense. So I think Waynesburg can maybe get one of those games, pull away with one of those wins. Friday they have a doubleheader against Mount Aloysius, who's entering the matchup 8-3 overall. They have a sophomore first baseman, Lydia DeFazio. She's hitting .324 this season, 11 hits, 14 RBIs in 11 games, and another freshman pitcher, Emily Cochran, who has yet to give up an earned run in 3 starts this season, 2 of those being complete games. I think that'll be a tough doubleheader for Waynesburg. Really some solid pitching. Team ERA of 1.49 for Mount Aloysius this season, and the offense has been potent as well, averaging 7.7 runs per game. So be lucky if Waynesburg pulls out with a win, in my opinion, in that doubleheader. And Saturday they play Pitt Greensburg at Pitt Greensburg, 3-7 overall coming into that doubleheader. They have some solid freshman play as well, but they've had some weak pitching with both of the pitchers they've been using with an ERA over 6 so far to start the season. So I think Waynesburg can maybe come out of this week 3-3 overall, but really going to be a tough week as they play those 6 games.
Jacob, thank you for all your analysis. Well, when we come back to Jacket Sports Weekly, we'll be talking track and field with Corey Fisher. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome to Watch This. I'm Brennan Rossai.
And I'm Chris Hulse.
On this show, we look at all of the national movies and TV shows that are making shockwaves throughout the society.
Join us as we review and preview Hollywood's best and worst.
On Watch This.
Back on Jacket Sports Weekly, time to talk about the track and field teams, both the women and men competing at the Muskie Duels in New Concord, Ohio at the Muskingum University Invitational of sorts. Corey Fisher in to break that down for us.
Yeah, the Waynesburg women and the men both participated in the meet, and they both defeated some opponents, but also fell. We'll start with the women. They went 5-1 respectively if you count their head-to-head wins. The only loss came to John Carroll. But they dominated for sure in the 10,000 meter run, which they had all three of the top three placers were freshmen, and they were all from Waynesburg. First was Aubrey Wingart with a 40-minute, 27-second time. Freshman Gloria Reed, 41:33, and sophomore Gianna Pugliano as well. So when that's top three, so they dominate there, which is one of those things that we saw coming out through that indoor season as well. Those three, especially the younger generation of these Waynesburg runners, competed well and also held a majority of the weight. Now when you go to the field side for the women, junior Jordan Simpson continues to shine in the javelin, winning with a top toss of 35.27 meters. So we see that on the field side as well. And then also long distance running is also effective. Junior Katie Thompson took third in 800 meters, and Rachel Pellegrino followed in fourth place as well. So I mean so you see the women dominate as well on the track and the field. And then when you go over to the men's side, they did well, but not as well as the women. They also competed in less head-to-head matches in the Muskie Duel. But freshman Silas Mays took the top score in the 800-meter run, and then sophomore Nate Jesslin finished in the same event with the fifth top time. And then sophomore Matt Durgan took home second place in the 10,000-meter run. And then senior Blake Feldner and sophomore Ryan Van Tyne placed fourth and fifth in the shot put. So we see that as well in track and field. Both teams are doing well, and both teams are back in action against Carnegie Mellon on March 23rd at 10 a.m.
As you said, it's just continuing with this team, the success, kind of picking up where they leave off. You know, from the fall in cross country, a lot of them come over and play track and field. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on. Looking ahead over the next couple of weeks, what do you see from this team?
Yeah, it's what you just said about cross country. You see that especially in the women's team, who we talked about all cross country season with how young they were and how that's going to step up. We talked about more so next year and the year after that, but we're even seeing it now in indoor when all the girls who are, placing maybe 2 or 3 in this cross country now and indoor are now placing these 1s and 2s in the outdoor track and field as the season continues to progress. So I think as we go out throughout the year, we're going to see the same thing that happened with cross country, as you said, with both the men and the women. They're going to get more together as a team, and they're going to work harder, and you're going to see most of those seniors are going to step up, as well as you see the sophomores and freshmen continue to grow under the seniors' leadership.
All right, Corey, thank you for your analysis. When we come back, Joe Smeltzer will sit down with Emma Kubalak from the women's softball team. You're watching Jacket Sports Weekly.
Waynesburg's first film festival was a hit. Our own Emily Bennett has more.
Senior electronic media major Megan Cook hosted the first film festival at Waynesburg University.
7 degrees outside with a small wind chill, with flurries still falling down. Will it continue to snow though?
6 others injured Monday night in a crash in New York City. Police say a 70-year-old man was attempting to parallel park his van
in the company's history. In fact, the online retailer says from Thanksgiving to Cyber Monday, customers ordered C, but they did start the season at 4-1-2. Missing the playoffs was a disappointment for this team. 4 consecutive losses to end the season, including a 9-0 loss.
Welcome back to Jacket Sports Weekly. I'm Joe Smeltzer here with our weekly interview segment. This week is with Emma Kubalak, a sophomore pitcher on the Waynesburg University softball team. So Emma, the season is young, going from South Carolina and not having the trip you wanted, starting 2-8, but coming back here and getting a doubleheader sweep this past Saturday. So how would you kind of summarize your sophomore year so far, both from a team standpoint and from what you've been doing as a pitcher?
Well, obviously the season didn't begin as we expected. We expected to come back 6-2 or at least 4-4. But the sweep definitely helped boost our morale and give us the push we needed to come back. And I think so far our season has helped us really connect as a team, especially coming back with those losses. But I think the wins pushed us to prepare for Franciscan on Wednesday.
Okay, so you're seeing an increased role on the team as a pitcher, kind of taking some of the workload off Courtney Messenger, who's more experienced. So how would you say that you've kind of handled everything personally this year as far as what's expected from you on the team?
Well, without Courtney, because she's been doing student teaching, it's been a lot of pressure on me, but the team has definitely helped me handle it. They've had my back in all the games we've had, and it's just having them helps with the pitching.
So starting last season, obviously going from high school to college and having to adjust to college life as well as life as a student athlete from college compared to high school. This year you're also having to adjust because Waynesburg changed head coaches going from Rochelle Hall to Brad Shimmick. So how has it been with both of your years bringing great change? Last year more for you personally and this year more for the whole team because of the switch at the head coaching position.
Coming from high school, college ball was definitely different. It was more rigorous work, harder practices, more intense. So I had to adjust from that. The schoolwork's a lot tougher, so it's harder to keep up with it.
How is it being a student athlete at Waynesburg when your major, which you are a nursing major, is probably the most demanding on campus educationally?
It is. The professors are very flexible with our schedule, so if I just let them know, obviously, that we have a game or something, they'll give me the work that I need to do. It's harder to keep up, but it's definitely doable.
Okay, so going back to the team, conference play hasn't started yet. Waynesburg hasn't made the conference playoffs in a few years. Last year, high expectations didn't quite go the way you wanted. This year, most of that talent, in fact, pretty much all of that talent is back. So what's going to be the key to finally kind of breaking that streak and qualifying for the President's Athletic Conference postseason and overall just making some noise in the conference?
We have a lot of talent on the team. We just need to find a combination that works for us on the field. We have amazing outfielders, infielders, everything. We have amazing bats in the dugout, and we just need to find what works. So hopefully we'll make it to PAX this year.
All right, thank you for your time, Emma. When we come back, Dylan and Zach will break down their top 5 athletes of the week from Waynesburg University. Stick around on Jacket Sports Weekly.
Hello and welcome to The Journey, WCTV's only faith-based program.
Over the course of this semester, we are going to walk with students through their daily lives and take a look at how faith impacts them.
Please take a half hour, sit down, and relax with us as we go on a journey with students, staff, and residents of Waynesburg.
Back here on Jacket Sports Weekly, it's now time for our top 5 athletes of the week around the campus of Waynesburg. Number 5 for me is Taylor Staley. 3 RBI in the doubleheader against Penn State Fayette, and 2 wins for the softball team coming off of their not-so-stellar Myrtle Beach preseason trip. Number 4 is Courtney Seifert, 4 hits and 3 RBI in the same doubleheader that I just mentioned just a second ago. Number 3, Tyler Reese, making the jump from second to third base in his senior season, 4 hits and an RBI in the doubleheader against Allegheny, despite falling in both games to Allegheny. Number 2 is Mitch Nordstrom, same thing in the same doubleheader, 4 hits and 3 RBI for the center fielder for the Jackets. Did very well in those games, despite not being able to bring home the wins. And number 1 is Courtney Messenger, 2-hit shutout in the first game against Penn State Fayette, was able to bring home both wins in the doubleheader for the Waynesburg softball team.
A couple similar, but we'll throw a couple new names in there as well. My number 5 is Courtney Messenger. She pitched a perfect game. The Jackets scored 11 runs and were able to mercy roll Penn State Fayette in 5 innings to get their 3rd win of the season. Blake Feldner, the senior from the track and field team, he had 2 top 6 finishes, 4th in the shot put and 6th in the discus. A decent start to his senior season. Jordan Simpson, a junior from the women's track and field team, participates in the field events. She had 2 solid events, taking a 1st in javelin and 4th in shot put. Again, she's also starting to put a solid season together for herself. Tyler Reese at number 2 for me from the baseball team. His first home run of the season, went 4 of 7 in their doubleheader, and he's starting to really come around during his senior season, something that we've seen him do in the past and we'll hopefully continue to see moving forward. And number 1, Courtney Seifert, her first collegiate home run over the weekend and just a double shy of hitting for the cycle and she's a multi-sport athlete here at Waynesburg. You can't ask for much more of her. That's all the time we have for this episode of Jacket Sports Weekly. I'm Dylan Cleland. He's Zach Schnegg. Thanks for joining us, and tune in next week for more of Waynesburg Sports.
This has been a production of Waynesburg Community Television.